Hey, good morning. Welcome to your United States Air Force Academy. I'm Mike Peterson, Chief of Outreach and Engagement at the Academy, and we're very glad that you've joined us this morning. We have an informative event plan, but before we get started, could I see a quick show of hands as to how many people were able to see the fighter pilot show in the planetarium this morning? Excellent. What'd you think? Yeah, it's awesome. We've had an incredible response to the planetarium since it opened about a month ago, and it's really just starting to take off. If you missed the show at 10:30, it's going to be shown again at 12:30, so you can cut out after the address and head over there. General Silvera's address this morning is going to last about 50 minutes, and then after the address, he's going to come down into the audience and answer some of your questions if you have any for him. I'd also like to invite you to join us for a small reception in the back of the room following today's address. Last, we're also videotaping today's event. It's going to be available on our website, www.usafa.edu, and it's also going to be shared on our social media platforms. And now we're ready for the State of USAFA address. Please join me in welcoming the 20th Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy, Lieutenant General J. Silvera.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Please. I have to admit, I feel like I'm interrupting. There was nice jazz music going on. There was nice mingling going on, and so I feel like I'm interrupting the bar scene. So, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming today, and welcome to the United States Air Force Academy. I'm planning on discussing the past year that we've had, as well as looking forward to the next year. If you've already been part of this community, and you're a graduate, or you're connected to the Academy somehow, or if you visited us once before, then certainly welcome back. If you're the first time here at the Academy and first time at the Air Force Academy or new to Colorado, the faculty, the staff, then certainly welcome. As Mike mentioned, what we're doing here is going to be taped and it'll be available on the website. So let me also take an opportunity to say welcome to those that are watching from their home or perhaps from the workplace a little bit later. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for watching. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Lieutenant General J. Silvera, and I'm the 20th Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy, and it's certainly a pleasure for me to talk about my alma mater, and it's a privilege for me to be here as the leader of my alma mater. It is certainly a privilege. This upcoming August, I'll pass the 2-year mark of being here as the superintendent. It's been an amazing, rewarding, and incredibly fast-paced 2 years. And I think you'll get a glimpse here in the next few minutes as I cover some of the successes that we've had, as well as some of the challenges here at the Air Force Academy. I also think it's important that this continues to be an open dialogue. As an academic institution and as a military institution, it's important as commanders and as a leader in higher ed that we are open and we're transparent. As Mike mentioned, I'll come down and certainly talk to anyone who has any questions after, but you can also get a question to me at any time. So with that, let's get started. So next slide, please. So each year at our Academy, right around the first week of April, we celebrate our Founders' Day. And it's a perfect time for us to look back and talk about the state of our Academy. On April 1st, 1954, President Eisenhower signed the Air Force Academy Act, setting into motion the creating of the campus that we're in today. And in June of 1954, the Secretary of the Air Force, Harold Talbot, selected Colorado Springs. And we're certainly glad that he did. Construction began almost immediately, and I have to tell you, on my wall in my office, I have one of the original architectural renderings of what the Academy was going to look like before even the first bit of dirt was turned over. And I keep that on my wall as a reminder of, are we meeting the vision that was intended, just like that architect made that original drawing? Are we meeting what this place is supposed to be? What it was supposed to accomplish for our Air Force, and what it was supposed to accomplish for our nation. Our founders had a vision of this place that it would prepare officers to solve complex problems of modern warfare. As far back as 1918, there was always a call for an aeronautical academy that is the backbone of the air service. And General Harmon, he's pictured on the far right, his vision was a demanding program of military training, academics, athletics, and character development. But unlike the campus layout and the buildings that are around, whether or not we have met his vision isn't visible when you look out across the terrazzo. Because it's our mission of producing leaders of character, the capabilities and the qualities of these graduates, and the potential that they add to the United States Air Force. In 1955, 306 cadets began training at Lowry Air Force Base as the class of 1959. We now have over 4,000 cadets on our campus, and last year we graduated our 50,000th graduate into the Long Blue Line. And in just next month, we'll graduate the class of 19, our 61st graduating class that will enter the United States Air Force. So in more than 60 years, are we meeting the vision that General Harmon laid out? Are we meeting the principles of our founders? And I'll offer that yes, we are. But my measure of success in that is our graduates. The graduates that I've seen myself that are out there leading in combat, that are leading in 21st century warfare, the frequent stories that I hear from my peers and my colleagues, frequent stories around the Air Force and around other branches of service, and I'd like to tell you some of those stories here today. Next slide, please. This picture was taken 2 days ago in Kabul, Afghanistan. It's the 9th Air Expeditionary Task Force Air Staff. It's made up of 50% USAFA grads, and those USAFA grads are all from the same class of 2009. Second from the left, that's Major Marissa King. Far right, that's Major Mark Bishop. And second from the right, tallest apparent in the picture, is Major Lyndon Bartlett. He's the one who sent us this photo. He's the weapons and tactic expert on that staff. Major Bartlett is assigned to the 26th Weapons Squadron at Nellis Air Force Base, and he's a subject matter expert on the MQ-9 for Air Combat Command and Air Force Special Operations Command. He's still a young officer, but let me tell you his story of something that he accomplished. With only 72 hours notification, he led a 5-ship mission, the first of its kind, that combined MQ-9s and B-2s in an intercontinental integrated strike against ISIS. After a 9-hour transit of his aircraft across 6 countries, the formation converged on a strike point, delivered 90 weapons in a 10-minute strike video, leading to the destruction of a terrorist camp composed of 133 ISIS members with 0 civilian casualties. And for these actions, Major Bartlett was named the 2017 National Defense and Industry Asymmetric Warfare Officer of the Year. The UK Ministry of Defense also awarded him the Johnston Memorial Trophy winner. Remarkable accomplishment. Next slide, please. On the far left of this picture is Major Caitlin Riley. She's from the class of 2007. She's assigned to Air Force Special Operations Command, and she's a U-28 instructor pilot. This picture was taken last month of an all-female crew of a U-28 training mission that was flown out of Hurlburt Field in Florida. But in 2017 and 18, she deployed 4 times in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, Freedom Sentinel, and Resolute Support. She commanded more than 500 combat hours during those deployments. And as an aircraft commander of a U-28 on one of those deployments, Major Riley was tasked as the tactical air controller airborne for a ground assault of 2 ISIS compounds. The assault force, however, came against an unexpected force and was ambushed. She coordinated attacks from HH-60s, F-16s, and AC-130s, striking targets, coordinating the evacuation of casualties. Her and her crew were credited with saving the lives of the Special Operations Forces on the ground and the host nation troops partnering in the assault. There's no question that since they graduated that Major Bartlett and Major Riley have increased the combat capability and the lethality of our Air Force. They're examples to our cadets and standards for all of us to look at what we expect of our graduates. And those are certainly extraordinary heights. But forgive the pun, speaking of extraordinary great heights, how about one more graduate story, Colonel Nick Hague. A class of 1998 graduate. He's 250 miles above us right now on the International Space Station. He's the 42nd graduate to go into space. And some of you may recall that last fall in October, that Nick's flight in October 11th, his Russian crewmate, they survived the first aborted launch of a Soyuz capsule in more than 30 years. Nick's performance in training was lauded by the head of the Russian Space Agency. He had to become fluent in Russian to pilot that Soyuz spacecraft. But Nick was ready to go again immediately. Moments after his reunion with his family, he said he was prepared to go again. And so Nick had his first flight in space the second time. And on March 15th, Nick and his crewmates launched the International Space Station. Next slide, please. Nick has conducted 2 spacewalks. His first was install new batteries on the solar power system, and he did it with a fellow astronaut, Ann McClain, turns out a West Point graduate. And in the midst of his hectic schedule, his spacewalks and research, he made a video for us that we shared last week on our Founders Day. So let's go ahead and play that video, please. It's a remarkable entrance, by the way.
Happy Founders Day from the International Space Station. Hello, I'm Nick Hague, class of 1998, currently orbiting 250 miles above the Earth as part of Expedition 59, with a mission to explore new horizons in medical research, extended space travel, biological sciences, and more. I've been on the station about 3 weeks now, and things are pretty busy up here. In addition to learning how to live in space, and how this amazing one-of-a-kind laboratory operates, we've been focused on completing a series of 3 spacewalks to extend the life of the space station and to expand its capacity to perform out-of-this-world science. The days are long, but the view is amazing, and so far, we're crushing it. During my 7-month stay aboard the International Space Station, we will be conducting approximately 300 research investigations and technology demonstrations that simply aren't possible on Earth. These experiments span fields of physical science, biology, and biotechnology, Earth and space science, tech demos, and human research, all with the aim to expand our understanding of the universe around us, the understanding of ourselves, and to enable future long-duration human exploration of the Moon, Mars, and beyond. When I was an Academy cadet, I never thought that a little more than 20 years later I would be circling the globe 250 miles above the terrazzo as part of this amazing international program that's yielding important advances on a daily basis. But thanks to my time at the Academy and my experiences in the Air Force, I've learned to confidently adapt to new challenges and to push to explore new horizons. Enjoy your evening as you celebrate the 65th anniversary of the founding of the United States Air Force Academy, our alma mater that has opened new horizons to more than 50,000 graduates since 1954. Finally, congratulations to this year's distinguished graduate honorees. Major General Edward Jane II, class of 1966, Dr. H. Michael Lambert, class of 1970, General Mark Welch, class of 1976, and Brigadier General John Inglis, class of 1976. Your legacy of integrity, service, and excellence continues to inspire all airmen. We aim high because of you.
I guess an even better exit, right? And those graduates are showing that they live up to the standards and principles that our founders expected. But let's talk about some of the cadets right now. Are they up to the task? And are they living up to what our founders wanted of them? Are they living up to the founding principles? So over the past 2 years, I've spent countless hours interacting with our cadets. And whenever I'm amongst our cadets, talking to them, getting to know them, I'm consistently amazed. Without fail, I can learn about some remarkable research they're doing. I can learn about some far-flung locale that they visited, or some language, an internship, something they participated in, some amazing opportunity. And so much of that was not available in the 1980s when I was here. I'll also learn about some incredible story about them before they got here. Something they had to overcome, some hardship that they persevered, and the determination that they've had in order to get here. And I'll tell you, I'm constantly amazed. And I'm constantly that you will be too. So I encourage you to take the opportunity to talk to them whenever you get the chance. You won't be disappointed. But I know all of you don't have the same opportunity, so I'd like to introduce to you some of the cadets. Next slide, please. This is Cadet Kyle Hake, class of 2019. He's a physics major and a minor in nuclear weapons and strategy. This year he was named the Cadet of the Year for 2018, the most outstanding cadet of all commissioning sources in the Air Force over the academic year. He's pictured here receiving the award from our Vice Chief of Staff, General Stephen Wilson. Next slide, please. But not only that, Kyle's a captain on the hockey team, and he's a two-time academic All-American. And Kyle represents the determination and the academic excellence that we want from all of our cadets. Next slide, please. Last year, we were proud to announce that Jesse Singh, who's now a second lieutenant, became the 39th Air Force Academy cadet to be named a Rhodes Scholar. This year, we doubled that. And we had 2 of the 32 nation's top students, 2 Rhodes Scholars from the United States Air Force Academy. Pictured here is Cadet James Braun and Cadet Madison Tung. James is from Huntsville, Alabama, and majors in computer science and minors in Chinese. He spent an internship at the National Security Agency, and at Oxford, he plans on pursuing a degree in computer science. Madison is from Santa Monica, California, majored in mathematics and humanities and minored in Chinese. She's also pursuing a master's in computer science, but also global governance and diplomacy. Next slide, please. Aside from those 3 individuals that I mentioned that have remarkable GPAs and remarkable accomplishments, all 3 of them also have something in common, and it's the research that they did. James, as I mentioned, he did some research, groundbreaking research on quantum computing, an intersection of cybersecurity and computer science, and has a patent pending with the U.S. Patent Office. Madison conducted research in the use of artificial intelligence to develop tools for decision makers, and Kyle, despite the hockey and all of his other demands, did research on needs of electricity and fresh water as populations increase around the world. But they only represent all of the research that goes on. The United States Air Force Academy proudly is the #1 funded undergraduate research institution in the country. Last year, over $40 million in undergraduate research. Pictured here is Cadet Second Class Eric Hembling. He's researching hypersonic vehicles in our Department of Aeronautics. He did that earlier this year. And I can speak for anyone who attended this year. In January, we gave out our research awards for those 3 that I mentioned and for so many others, and we were certainly blown away by all of the research that the cadets are doing across the Academy. But one of the other programs that leads to some of these amazing results is our STAMPS Scholarship. It's made possible by funding from the USAFA endowment, and it offers opportunities for research, internships, and cultural immersion experiences across the world. Those opportunities would not be possible without the generous support of our endowment. So it's certainly appropriate for us to thank them for all that they've done this past year. They've supported not only infrastructure projects like the one we're in now in Polaris Hall and the recent reopening of the planetarium, which I'll talk about in a minute, but also uncommon opportunities for cadets like the ones I've mentioned, supports for club sport teams that travel to compete at national competitions. They're having a direct impact on improving the cadet experience. So on behalf of the entire USAFA community, thank you to the USAFA endowment. Next slide, please. I'd like to switch gears and talk about some of our athletic teams. Pictured here is the USAFA rifle team, which had another outstanding season. In November, they swept the President's Trophy match against other service academies. They won the Patriot Rifle Conference Championship and went on to win 3rd in the nation at the NCAAs. Cadets Anna Welbacher, Spencer Kapp, Logan Ogden, Peter Fiore, Casper Shadler all garnered All-American accolades as they finished 3rd overall in the country. Next slide, please. Our men's soccer team won the WAC conference title this year, bringing our total to 15 conference championships over the last 4 seasons for all of Air Force athletics. This men's team was led by 2 All-Americans, Tucker Bone and Austin Dewing, who's pictured here as a third-team All-American. Next slide, please. And among our All-Americans, Cadet First Class J.C. Smith, pictured, she is a first-team All-American, had an impressive sixth-place finish in the 5,000-meter at the NCAA Division I Indoor Track and Field Championship. She was the number 3 American finisher in a 16-runner final. Just a remarkable effort. Cadet Second Class Michael Rhodes, who earned second-team All-American honors, placed 8th in the national finals in the 800-meter run. But there are only 2. The Air Force has had 174 All-Americans over the last 4 seasons. 27 this year, including Garrett Capella, first-team academic All-American on the football team, and Nathan Thomas, an academic All-American on the cross-country team. Next slide, please. We had the privilege in January of welcoming Mr. Nathan Pine to the Air Force Academy team. He's the first Division I athletic director to be hired at the Air Force Academy, and he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in sports management, and we're confident that his leadership is going to even give us more opportunity in our Division I athletics. But recently, Nate shared with me our current standings in the Learfield Directors Cup, which is an award that ranks the nation's best overall athletic programs. Air Force is currently 33 out of 400 programs in the nation. We're number 1 out of 12 in the Mountain West Conference. We're number 1 of the 3 service academies, and we've been the top service academy for the last 7 years in a row. But before I leave athletics, I think it's important to thank Colonel Jen Block for the outstanding job that she did over the prior year in leading our athletic department, and her leadership is one of the reasons that the Academy set a record of 61 cadets that earned all academic honors in Mountain West Conference this year. So thank you very much to Jen Block. Now, well, on the subject of leadership, next slide, please. Changing a leadership and welcoming new team members is not uncommon at our academy or any military organization. And so this summer, we're going to bid farewell to General Kristen Goodwin, and we're going to welcome Brigadier General Michelle Edmondson as our new commandant. She comes to us doing space policy in the White House, is an accomplished space operator and an excellent leader, and we're looking forward to having her. Our Dean of Faculty, Brigadier General Andy Armacost, has announced his retirement and will leave this summer. Certainly the irreplaceable Andy Armacost will be hard to find someone to fill that seat, but we're in the process of hiring a dean right now, and I'll certainly make that announcement as soon as we know who the new dean is. Not pictured here, but our 10th Air Base Wing Commander, Colonel Sean Campbell, is concluding his 2 years as a commander. And we've recently announced that Colonel Brian Hartless, a civil engineering professional, will immediately be put to work when he takes command in June. Our command chief and my wingman, Chief Master Sergeant Rob Boyer, is retiring this summer after a 31-year career, and we'll be welcoming Chief Master Sergeant Sarah Sparks to our leadership team. As far as I know, the superintendent isn't going anywhere, so you can wish me luck with all of the leadership changes. There certainly is some nervous excitement around about those leadership changes, and it's a reminder to me that none of this happens without a team. Our people are expert professionals, and I'm honored every day to be surrounded by outstanding leaders, faculty, staff, and coaches that do remarkable work. And it's the responsibility of that leadership team to set the tone and be the example on our culture and climate across the academy. Next slide, please. The release of the sexual assault and harassment report, known as the SH&V, on January 31st was a stark example of the need for leadership vigilance. And I'll be very direct here. I was disgusted by the report. I was disgusted by the results of the report, and it's unacceptable for the United States Air Force Academy. And pictured here, you can see that I was asked to testify in front of Congress with the other superintendents to talk about what we're doing to confront these issues and to share with Congress any needs that we have and ways that we're getting after this issue. Things that we've done in the last year, we hosted a Pathways to Thriving Summit, which was the first time we had ever assembled at the Academy survivors of sexual assault in order to get their ideas, in order to look forward proactively at ways that we can take this on. And this year we're going to host a Pathways to Prevention Summit ways to focus on prevention across the cadet wing. And we'll be looking for everyone's ideas on ways to prevent sexual assault, sexual harassment, and that kind of violence. On April 24th, a first time, you're going to see the cadet wing wearing jeans that day. This is Worldwide Sexual Violence Awareness. It's called Denim Day, and we'll celebrate it. We'll celebrate the awareness with a number of universities across the country. And we're showing support of survivors of all forms of sexual violence and our commitment to change. This campaign started over a ruling where a rape conviction was overturned because justices felt that since the victim was wearing a certain type of jeans, that somehow implied consent. We find that abhorrent. We want to be part of this national conversation because there is no excuse, there's never an invitation to harass, abuse, assault, or rape. We're looking forward to that day. Next slide, please. And last week, I was at the United States Naval Academy for a summit. Over 2 days, we had leaders from across the nation. We had higher education community represented by 120 universities. Our service academies and the Department of Defense subject matter experts all gathered to discuss sexual assault and sexual harassment at all of our institutions. The bottom line is that we have to do better. USAFA will remain a place of dignity. But that summit also reminded me of a number of things. And it is my intention as the commander of the Air Force Academy that we intend to lead in this area. And we are leading. There's material that we teach here that a number of universities are asking for and seeking from us. There's organizational changes that we've made that other universities are asking us about and want to emulate. Members of Congress are evaluating policies that we put in place and looking to put them broader across the Department of Defense. In the coming next month or two, you'll see an article published by me on how we manage sexual assault survivor cases. And that'll be published to show how we do that as another example of how we're leading in this subject matter, but also that I expect to lead. It's been a busy year in so many ways, and certainly our physical changes around the academy are no exception. So next slide, please. It may not be a point of a physical change or a construction project, but I'd like to make an announcement today. Our airfield, which if you drive along Stadium Boulevard on your way and you pass the airfield, you'll see a very nondescript sign that says airfield. It's driven me crazy ever since I've been here. We're going to rename that airfield in honor of General Benjamin O. Davis. He was the first combat commander of the all-black fighter squadron and fighter group during World War II of the famous Red Tails. But as important for us, General Davis played a crucial role in the Academy's history on the Association of Graduates Board of Trustees and the Falcon Foundation, helping us address the high attrition rate in the 70s and personally involving himself in improving USAFA's climate of inclusivity. He helped us increase the enrollment of women and minorities, and we're incredibly proud that our airfield will now bear the name of an airman, a warrior, and an exemplar without peer who embodies the traits that our academy seeks in all of its graduates. Next slide, please. Thank you. And some of you were just over at our planetarium, and I mentioned it earlier, but thanks in support for the USAFA endowment, it was reopened after nearly 15 years. Made possible by generous donors of Mr. Bill Martinson, Mr. Jerry Bruner, Ms. Pam Bruni, in particular, but so many others. When we opened it up, we had a sneak peek event in late January to view the lunar eclipse, and we planned on one showing. We had more than 800 people and had to have 8 showings that night. At the grand opening last month, nearly 2,500 people showed up. So far, just in 1 month, we've welcomed nearly 3,400 people to the planetarium, including 1,400 over the recent spring break. Next slide, please. That initial success is certainly a sign of great things to come, and it's part of many planetariums across the country that are being modernized as educational tools to deliver our curriculum, but also for STEM outreach to audience of all ages. In fact, Nick Hague, the astronaut mentioned earlier, remembers sitting in the planetarium on a visit to the academy as a young boy. And so we're hoping to inspire so many young men and women just like Nick Hague that you saw in the video. Next slide, please. Another project that we're excited about is the Center for Cyber Innovation. It will include approximately 100 industry partners that are actively engaged in Air Force projects in cyber and in collaboration with Air Force operators and also with cadets. And the facility, we expect to break ground on that early next year. And it will be designed to facilitate public and private partnerships and direct cadet interaction. Next slide, please. First, let me point out that this picture was taken by one of our incredibly talented cadets, Cadet First Class Tim Ward, and you can find his work online, Tim Ward. He took this picture, and he has so many others. He's a remarkably talented young man who takes incredible photos. We know the chapel is one of our most iconic structures in the state, and in fact, one of the most iconic structures in the nation. And I know the status of the chapel is certainly interest to many of you and many throughout the community. Unfortunately, the repair of the chapel has been deferred as the Air Force looks for ways to secure extra funding. As many of you know, some of our Air Force bases, Tyndall Air Force Base and Offutt Air Force Base, have been forced to take on major repairs after some natural disasters. And so some of that funding from our chapel has been diverted for that. And certainly recognize that operational needs will come before our chapel, and we know that the Air Force will get to our chapel eventually. But she stands proud, and we look forward to all of the visitors that will continue to come visit our chapel. Next slide, please. At this event last year, we announced a project to build a new visitor center at our Northgate area. First, let me congratulate Major Suthers on his recent re-election, because he and so many members of the Colorado Springs City Council have been supporters that help us complete the legal aspects that we needed to begin the development of this space along with the City of Colorado Springs. We're excited about this project. It continues. But I tell you, what I'm most excited about this project is that it's also continuing to build on a partnership with the City of Colorado Springs and the entire region. We're incredibly grateful to be part of this supportive community. Next slide, please. And part of that, this year, we began a program with honorary commanders. So many of these commanders, they're all tied to organizations across the Air Force Academy, including Mr. Don Addy, who's my honorary commander. And next slide, please. And it's been my fervent desire ever since I've been here to make it known across the community and across the Front Range that this Air Force Academy is not just a national asset, but is also part of the Colorado Springs community. We're open 9 to 5 every single day. You can come mountain bike, you can run the trails, you can road bike, you can enjoy the 19,000 acres, as well as enjoy all the sites that we have on the Air Force Academy proper. Next slide. The Visitor Center is one way that people get to know our academy, but soon we'll have another one. On May 1st and on our website, we'll be launching a virtual reality tour capability. And I think the best way, without talking about that, is to just show you a couple minutes of what that looks like. So whoever has the controls, please go ahead and give us a little demonstration. Ashley does. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, say request again. 5 Golf Mike, actually amend altitude, descend and maintain 11,000.
on final here. Start our roll. Just a little bit since we're going to be doing the slip on final here. Start our roll. I think that's pretty nice. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. One of the favorite aspects of being the superintendent is the opportunity to get out and meet our grads, our parents, our supporters, partners, community members, and tell our story. And much of what I said today is all things that I tell all of those groups when I get out. In 2018, I was out in a number of places around the country, and I'd like to thank the Association of Graduates in all of those locations and the Association of Graduates here for their indispensable role in arranging many of those engagements. So far, I've done a few in 2019. I was just up in Idaho last month, and I'll be in Minneapolis at the end of this month. And whether or not I'm out there to see you in person in many of the locations, I'd ask our grads and our parents to please stay engaged and see what's going on at the Academy. And there's a lot of ways to follow that. You can follow on our official homepage, certainly Instagram, Facebook pages, YouTube channel, etc. This is my Instagram page. You can see in the bottom right pictured as I'm watching the cadets in the Space Operations Center. I've also started recording a radio show to share some information about the Academy, and you can tune in on 97.7. You can also get the free KAFA FM mobile app for your phone, and if you have an Alexa, you can certainly ask Alexa what's going on at the Air Force Academy, and she'll tell you. Next slide, please. So I think General Harmon gave us the vision. He gave us the mission of what we're doing here, and I think we've realized that vision. But I certainly want to make it clear that we are absolutely not done. Last year, the class of 2018 was our 60th graduating class, as I mentioned. 50,000th graduates, 400 went to pilot training. But the class of 2019 will have 1,000 graduates again, but about 520 will go to pilot training. We'll have 50 go to remotely piloted aircraft, 56 to cyber operations to fight in cyberspace. But we'll have the highest number ever going to space operations in 32 of our graduates in the class of 19. And I know I focused on some of our superstars and Rhodes Scholars and such as Kyle Hake and James Brom and Madison Tung. But there are 1,000 other cadets in the class of 2019 who've accomplished incredible things over the past 4 years. And they represent cadets perhaps like our own Chief of Staff of the Air Force or perhaps myself. And I bet many of you don't know that when you become a 3-star general or a 4-star general in the United States Air Force, that you get to see into the future. And so we have 4 classes here at the Air Force Academy. We change out a superintendent every 4 years or so, which means somewhere on the terrazzo is the superintendent of the Air Force Academy that will take over in 2050. And I'm going to predict that somewhere in the middle of one of these graduating classes will be someone that excels in pilot training and goes on to win our Jabara Award. And there's a cadet in this class who's maybe struggling in one subject or two academically and is at the bottom third of the class, but will grind it out and go on to be a 3-star general. I think it's a testament to the quality of the academy. I think it's a testament to the quality of our faculty and our staff and our coaches that are among the best in the nation, and to our cadets who have come here to become officers and serve our nation. I'm just as confident in the rest of the class of 2019 as I am in those superstars. So I'll close by saying that the state of USAFA is strong. We are realizing that vision, but not in what we have accomplished, but in what we will and our graduates will accomplish. The real vision is that we will always be looking forward. We will always be looking to what's next on the horizon. We aren't done, and we will never be done. To our graduates, we need you. Stay involved. Your voice is valued. And to our community, thank you for being here. We love being in the Colorado Springs area, and we love being part of the Colorado Springs and Front Range communities. Thanks again for everyone for showing up. And what I will do now is wander out and certainly be ready to answer anyone's questions. Thank you all for coming today.